Crimson Tide, a movie that displays just what happens to people when the pressure is on. Today I will be sharing with you different types of leadership that I see in the movie, which ones I want to emulate, and what type of followership I see displayed. Some you may want to model or may already be modeling, and some I would say stay away from at all costs. It was very obvious from the first scene of the movie that Captain Ramsey was in that he led with power and influence. Of course he led with legitimate power, but he also led with expert power. This type of power has to do with a person who has expert knowledge about a particular relevant area. In Captain Ramsey's case, he knew all the ins and outs of the USS Alabama, exactly when to launch, what to launch, and how to launch. He knew that his crew respected and honored him as their captain, and he, in my opinion, took advantage of that. The same chapter in our textbook talks about progressive leadership. In this type of leadership, the person generally sees influence as the more appropriate device. That is why this type of leadership and power go hand in hand. To me, this leadership style fits Captain Ramsey to a T. One of the most pivotal points of the movie is when he is demanding that the missiles be launched and Lieutenant Hunter will not concur. We see Captain Ramsey almost to the point of his blood boiling because his power and influence are being challenged. He gave off the impression that his thoughts were, when he spoke, people listened, and they should jump to do exactly what he said. And although, as a captain in the Navy, yes, he was due this kind of respect, his attitude about it was extremely unbecoming. Lieutenant Hunter, on the other hand, led with servant leadership. Servant leaders motivate others and don't mind enlisting help from others when needed. We see this in the interaction between Lieutenant Hunter and Petty Officer 3rd Class Vossler. It seemed for a moment in the movie that the entire world's future rested on whether or not Vossler could get the radio fixed. Hunter was relying on Vossler's expertise and didn't mind motivating him with a little Star Trek reference. We also see, as a result of this in the movie, that when part of the crew sides with him in an attempt to take over the control room. He was not the man in charge, and they had no reason to side with him except for the fact that they were drawn to the way that he led. Hunter had a desire to serve the people on that submarine along with the people of our country. He knew that one rash decision could send the entire world into nuclear holocaust. Part of the critical thinking area of being a servant leader is to delay the decision if you're not sure. Some would see indecision as weakness, but nothing could be farther from the truth. Dr. Klein says making poor decisions demonstrates weakness in the listening and thinking critically area. He goes on to say, I have made far more mistakes as a leader by acting hastily than I ever did by delaying until I could listen to more information. Lieutenant Hunter asked for Captain Ramsey to take a step back and think about things before hastily firing missiles while having no radio communication. Lieutenant Hunter's servant leadership skills proved to be right in the end. Thankfully, his adamant request to delay the missile decision paid off. Throughout the movie, we see Captain Ramsey trying to lead his crew by using coercive power. Our textbook says when you use this type of power, there are costs. It creates resentment and mistrust, and the results diminish over time, providing only short-term effectiveness. There was no need for this type of leading. What will end up happening in this situation is that people will start to resent you and resent the fact that they have to answer to you. Using coercive power only works when the person that you are trying to control actually believes that the controller possesses the ability to prevent any undesirable consequences. Thankfully, the captain of the boat looked past Captain Ramsey's meltdown and went with what the protocol was. Had he thought for half a second that Captain Ramsey was going to somehow punish him and gave in to his coercion, the movie would have ended a lot differently. Lieutenant Howard seemed to lead with transformational leadership. Our textbook defines this type of leadership as a process which leaders and followers raise one another to higher levels of morality and motivation. I could list numerous accounts throughout the movie where I feel this leadership shined through, but the one I like the most is when the captain of the boat had to decide whether or not to do what is ethically right or whether to side with his captain. This is a crucial part of the movie. The crew's loyalty is divided at this point, and there is basically a standoff between the two men in charge. Transformational leadership is elevating. This means that followers must move to a higher level, there must be challenge and growth. Right in that moment, there was challenge and growth happening simultaneously. The challenge, of course, was deciding what the right decision to make was. Growth came out of making the right decision. And I do not for 1 second believe that the captain of the boat only chose protocol simply because it was protocol. I feel that he could see the difference in the way Lieutenant Hunter led versus the way Captain Ramsey led. One was a gentle giant, while the other was a hot-headed bull. I would want to model Lieutenant Hunter's leadership any day of the week. Now let's look at the behavior of a follower. One type of follower that Robert Kelly names is an effective follower. These type of followers think for themselves and are active organization players. They are enthusiastic, energetic, and are seen by others as risk-takers and independent problem solvers. They are innovative, assertive, and willing to stand up to the leader when needed. Effective followers assume ownership, are self-starters, and use their talents and resources to benefit the organization. Does this not describe Lieutenant Hunter perfectly? He saw every person on that submarine as part of a team that he was a part of. He was able to think for himself and not just follow any order that was barked out at him. I feel that he was seen as a risk-taker because he refused to concur with Captain Ramsey to launch the missiles until they were able to get the full second message. As a problem solver, he figured out a way to fight back, escape his arrest, convince Wepps to listen to him, and ultimately force Captain Ramsey to go along with what he thought was the right decision all along. He was never afraid to stand up to the captain, which is something that was extremely necessary in my opinion. Captain Ramsey led with authoritarian leadership. He spoke, people listened, and people acted. In many cases, this type of leadership can be a great thing. Dr. Klein says, when leaders know what needs to be done, when they have all the information and resources needed to do it, and when time is short and followers are well motivated, authoritarian leadership works well. On the other hand, when you have someone like Captain Ramsey who leads with this type of leadership but has little to no relationship with his crew, and he uses pressure as a method of influence, the chances of this blowing up right in your face are pretty promising. Dr. Klein goes on to say that authoritarian leadership is ineffective if others don't recognize and respect the leader's authority, competency, and character. And this type of leadership should not be confused with bossing people around. This quickly turns authoritarian leadership into abuse. Throughout the movie, we see Captain Ramsey ask Lieutenant Hunter not to challenge his commands in front of the other crew members. Now, in a normal situation, I would agree. Confronting someone or questioning their decisions should be done privately in order to prevent discord in a team. However, in this situation, Hunter had every right to question the captain's hot-headed, act now, no matter what attitude. I go back to the control room incident where Hunter refused to concur with Ramsey. I keep going back to this one incident because it was such a pivotal point in the movie, and it set the tone for the rest of it and ultimately the outcome. He tried to talk to him first. Had the captain asked him not to do that in front of others? Yes. But was Ramsey acting rationally? No. And because Lieutenant Hunter took it upon himself to stand up to the captain, he managed to save millions of lives. I think in this scene the interactions between the leader and the follower were absolutely appropriate in this given situation. We are not talking about a lieutenant who questions every order that he is given in order to be defiant or arrogant. This is a situation where Lieutenant Hunter's questioning is benefiting the organization. And that is when effective followership shows the most. Imagine this, being underwater, way underwater, surrounded by nothing but water. You have no radio communication, you don't know if the world above you is in a nuclear war, and for a moment, your submarine is sinking, and time seems to stand still. How would you lead? This movie puts leadership to the test. Some passed the test, while others sank under the pressure. I can't say that I wouldn't have made the same mistakes that I feel that Captain Ramsey made, or that I would have been able to lead with the amazing leadership that I see in Lieutenant Hunter. Today I want to leave you with this Swedish proverb. Rough waters are true tests of leadership. In calm water, every ship has a good captain. Thank you.